Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to this very special and exclusive show on PTV World, where we're going to be celebrating the 27th of February. We're going to be celebrating Swift Retort Day as we know it. Behind me you can see that we've got a beautiful bird coming, and it is the pride of Pakistan, the JF-17 Thunder. We're going to be talking about a lot of aspects of celebrating 27th of February, Swift Retort as we know it, where Pakistan was able to show the enemy that our desire for peace cannot be mistaken as a weakness. And we showed to the world, not just the enemy, that Pakistan Air Force is ever ready to defend the air frontiers of Islamic Republic of Pakistan. A lot of factors that we will be talking about, but particularly about the pride of Pakistan, the JF-17 Thunder that you see behind me, that is rolling onto the tarmac and is going to be ready for takeoff. We're going to be bringing you not just the planes, but the entire process of indigenization of Pakistan Air Force as well. Why are we rated as one of the most modern air forces in the world? This will be on the show tonight. We will be celebrating, of course, we will be celebrating indeed the fact that we are a proud nation that knows how to defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity. And we will be, of course, showcasing these birds as well that are, of course, going to be telling us that this is a moment for every Pakistani to be proud of. It's the JF-17 Thunder. It's absolutely noisy behind me, but you gotta love this noise. That's what planes is all about. Whenever there's thunder, it will be with a roar. So these are the thunders rolling, the pride of Pakistan, the JF-17, that are ready to go and ready to take off. Bringing you all of this exclusively on PTV World. Is how the thunders roll. They've roared and they have, of course, taken off from the tarmac and they are now in the air. These are the pride of Pakistan, the JF-17 Thunder. Right, now we did visit the flight lines, you saw all the flying and you saw the thunder roar, but now we're at a very important place when we talk about the indigenization of Pakistan Air Force. We're at the Aircraft Manufacturing Factory, AMF as it's more commonly known, and we'll be discussing some of the new innovations that are coming up when we talk about the manufacturing of a fighter aircraft in Pakistan. I'm very lucky to be joined with Flight Lieutenant Mohammad Waqas, who will be telling us everything that we need to know about the new innovations and the procedure of this aircraft manufacturing factory that we're talking about. Assalamu alaikum Waqas, how are you?
I'm fine.
Thank you so much for taking out time. So first of all, do tell us about what we're seeing in front of us and how the process will start.
Yes, basically right now we are standing in the structure build-up assembly line of JF-17. Assembly line has been divided into three major groups. First, the manufacturing of the parts. Right now these parts are laying on this table.
Right.
These are manufactured in different workshops of AMF JF-17. After manufacturing of these parts, we receive these parts, and first step is the quality of these parts, and the second step then we, our workers, basically do the marking and the drilling of these parts.
So basically what you're receiving is parts,
yes,
like these ones in front of us?
Yes.
And from here onwards, after you check the quality and the endurance of these,
yes,
then it goes into the marking which you're talking about?
Yes. And
so we've heard something is new now in marking, so what's
yes,
that?
Actually, basically the technology shift from 2D to paper-based stamps. We have the software, we have the CAD models. Right now I want to see you these CAD models.
Right, so Vikas, as you were telling us that the marking procedure, and I think the last time when we were here, when PTV World unveiled to the world the dual seat version of the JF-17, things were different. But now we're talking about a whole new shift in aircraft manufacturing from a 2D to a 3D technology that we've moved on.
Yes, actually, previously this job has been done, this marking job has been done with a 2D based drawings. Right now you are saying on this computer that these 3D models are available. So our workers are mashallah fully trained. Right now you are saying that these are consulting this model before marking. They are marking different holes, different dimensions for the assembly process. And after this pre-jig marking, we are shifting these parts to on-jig. Basically, right now we are standing in the front fuselage assembly line. Front fuselage assembly line has three sequences. First, the pre-jig work has been done. Right here, we are standing here. On the pre-jig work, before shifting the parts onto assembly, on these right now in my background, you are seeing jigs.
Right.
On jigs, these assemblies are basically built up, joined.
So because the difference between a 2D and a 3D technology now is obviously what I understand that it's now less time consuming, more efficient, right?
Yes, it's more efficient, more authentic, less time taking.
More accurate as well.
More accurate as well. And it actually improves the skill level of our worker, and the chances of the mistakes are
so we've reduced that amount of errors that were there. That is something phenomenal, and I think when you talk about the use of technology, it is a huge milestone in aircraft manufacturing in Pakistan, moving from a 2D based hand drawings that we talk about, sketches as you commonly know, to a 3D model that you see behind us, where these marking procedures are being done. I think an absolute phenomenal technological advancement that we're seeing at AMF. So definitely you talked about the other parts as well, you talked about the jigs. So let's just move on to there and see what is happening on those jigs as well. Right now we're at the jigs because obviously 3D modeling and the marking is a huge milestone. But now coming to the actual production as well, we do know, Vikas, that we're talking about the jigs and everything that is happening.
Yes. Right now we are standing in front of front fuselage assembly line. Actually fuselage has been divided into three major assemblies. Front fuselage, middle fuselage and rear fuselage. This is front fuselage assembly line, and the process of this assembly is first the parts are after the quality of the parts, the pre-jig work has been done, on which the marking and the drilling of different parts are arranged. Then after pre-jig work, then the parts are shifted into these jigs for on-jig work. This is the major work we have carried out, and after this on-jig work where the skins are arranged, right now this fuselage is inverted and nose is towards the wall. So after the assembly of these skins and these basically structure parts, we off-jig, means the remaining work is carried out during off-jig phase. And after completion of this whole front fuselage assembly, we have shifted this fuselage onto the assembly fuselage.
Right.
Assembly.
So the fuselage production is divided into three different parts, which is obviously different parts of the fuselage, right?
Yes, basically.
So can you please name those parts?
Yes, over 1,000 parts. We have the sheet metal parts, we have the structure part, we have the basically CNC parts, different system parts, different components. We are assembling on this jigs.
And the assembly is going in three different categories: the front fuselage, the mid fuselage, and the rear fuselage, as you talked about. So I think let's make our way to the jig and see what Vikas was telling us about the entire detailed work that is happening on jig when we talk about these parts. Right, we're on the jig now, and I would request Flight Lieutenant Vikas to explain the work going behind us. Noisy, but very important indeed.
Yes. As I already explained that this is front fuselage assembly. Basically, this front fuselage assembly work has been divided into three groups, as I already mentioned. The table work on these parts, these frames are CNC part.
We can see the marking
Yes,
as well.
yes, the marking has, the pre-drilling work has already done on the pre-jig.
Okay.
Now, with the help of these jigs, these parts, right now you are seeing in background, the drilling process has been carried out.
Right.
So, with the help of these jigs, the shape of the fuselage has been achieved.
And this is the front fuselage, right?
This is the front
and
fuselage.
as you mentioned that it is inverted, the nose is facing towards
Nose
it.
is facing towards the wall.
Right.
Okay. And right now this is an inverted position. After this completion of this on-jig process, we will tilt this fuselage in the upside down direction, and then the off-jig work will be carried out in the off-jig.
So Waqas, is there a timeline to the work that you're doing on the front fuselage? Is there a timeline that you can say that, okay, these many days are required for all the work related to
Yes, for manufacturing of one complete fuselage, we take almost 45 days.
45 days for the complete manufacturing. And this includes all the on-jig work that you were talking
All
about.
the pre-jig work, on-jig work, and the off-jig work.
Right, so whatever we're seeing behind us, we see a lot of people working. So it's not just one component at a time, it's many things that are happening at once, right?
Basically, for the front fuselage assembly, we have two assembly lines.
Right.
You are saying. Right. Okay? So at a time, after 15 days, one fuselage has been produced and shifted to off-jig work.
Off-jig.
And then for the further assembly of this complete fuselage, as I mentioned, with the assembly with middle fuselage and the rear fuselage, then that work has
That process takes place, and obviously when we talk about fuselage being divided into three parts, as Waqas briefed me as well, the front, the middle fuselage and the rear fuselage, then comes a point where all these three parts of the fuselage are joined into the main fuselage of the aircraft. So we'll be heading there as well, and let's show you how these three different parts are then combined into one fuselage of the aircraft. Right, we had a talk with the Flight Lieutenant Waqas, who explained to us all the work that was being done on jig, off jig, and also the 3D modeling. But now we're at a part where I did explain that three different parts of the fuselage, the front, the middle, and the rear part of the fuselage, are being combined into the complete fuselage of the aircraft. To talk more on this, we've been joined by Squadron Leader Farooq. Assalamu alaikum, sir. How are you? Great to have you once again. We remember coming last time and talking about so many things. But now coming to this very important section, do define the work that is happening behind us.
Actually, sir, this is the production line of fuselage joining. Here we assemble the front fuselage, middle fuselage and the rear fuselage together in one piece. The work is done with the help of the jigs. These jigs simulate the portion of the wings that being joined in final assembly stage. The front fuselage comes from the, which we have already seen on the jigs in the front portion, the middle fuselage in middle and the rear fuselage. With the help of the jigs, we locate and fix the position of all these three fuselages together, and then we build some of the portion on these jigs. Like you can see right behind you, 440 mm area, this is right now in the building stage. The important thing, middle fuselage of the whole fuselage is fuel tank area. There are three fuel tanks in the middle fuselage area, which we can recognize from the green portion of the skins. The color is green for the fuselage.
So basically, when we understand the color coding, the green portion stands for the fuel area.
Fueling.
Right. So when we talk about all these three parts of the fuselage being delivered to you, from here onwards, how long does it take to get it into a complete fuselage shape?
We take almost 45 days for the completion of joining of the fuselages together, and then the fuselage is shifted to off-jig stage, where we build up some of the components in the fuselage, and then the fuselage is handed.
So when you mention some of the components, what are those components?
Those components are pipes, which are fuel pipes, pneumatic pipes and oxygen pipes, canopy and windshield of the fuselage, which is also assembled in this workshop, and then these are joined together with the fuselage, and the fuselage is handed
So
over.
basically you take different parts and give the aircraft its complete shape.
Very
so
right.
it can look like an aircraft.
Yes.
Well, sir, thank you so much, Coordinator Farooq, and I think very important prospect that we see that definitely the entire work being done here will give the aircraft its complete shape as well. So thank you very much for it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, we saw the fuselage part of the assembly line, where the fuselage in three different parts becomes one complete fuselage of the aircraft. Now we're seeing the last part of this assembly line, where we see the wing and the jigs that are involved with the wing manufacturing of this as well. So Squadron Leader Farooq, do tell us about the assembly line that we're seeing behind us.
The wing, this is the wing assembly line.
Right.
Here we assemble wings in 4 stages. The first stage is aircraft, the frame of the wing, where we join the skeletal parts of the wing,
Right.
the main load-bearing parts of the wing. Then we bring the wing to next stage, where we assemble skins of the wings, and the skins are again in 2 colors. One is green and the other is yellow. The green portion of the wing will show the fuel tank area, while the yellow portion will be non-fuel tank area of the wing. Once the skins are installed, we take those wings to the next 3rd stage, where we do the machining work. The joining parts of the wing with the fuselage are being machined, and those are accurately machined to the level of microns, some microns. Then those wings are brought together and brought to the off-jig area.
That's very important because aerodynamics are involved, so you need precision
Yes.
to get those wings in place,
Yes.
right?
And there should be no clearances between the wings and the fuselage. You have to maintain those as well.
Right.
And at the off-jig area, we assemble the control surfaces of the wings with the remaining wing and some of the parts like the actuators, some cables and pipes which are being installed at this stage. Then those wings are delivered to the next stage for installation on the aircraft.
So the wings go with the fuselage to the next area, and obviously the next assembly line then assembles the wing with the fuselage, right?
Yes.
So how long does it take for a complete wing to be ready to go with the fuselage?
For one wing, we take 1.5 to 2 months for the complete.
2 months time. It's a complete process that is going in as well. So definitely that becomes a very important factor in this assembly line. The final phase is then assembling the wing on these jigs once again, which obviously we've seen are very important. And then from here onwards, the wing and the fuselage is sent for the final assembly line to be completed. So thank you so much, Coordinator Farooq. Great having you. And obviously from here onwards, we'll be moving on to the final assembly line, and we'll show you how the final assembly line makes the aircraft look like an aircraft finally. Right, we're at the final assembly line now, where the JF-17, the pride of Pakistan, will get its final touches. A lot to talk about, because obviously the final assembly line is somewhere where once the structure is delivered, a lot of testing and a lot of procedures go into all of that. And to know all about that and the technical details of the final assembly line, whatever is happening behind us, you can see that they're on a very busy schedule. They of course have to get this plane up and ready. So we'll be talking to somebody who's involved with the entire process, Squadron Leader Mohammad Arsalan. Assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Walaikum assalam. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm very good. Great to see you again. It's been a while since we came, but at that time, obviously, it was a dual seat version. Now, this is a surprise, which we will tell you what it is. We'll go to that point, but at the end. But first of all, knowing all of these dynamics, once the final structure comes here,
Yeah.
what's the next process?
Once all the major assemblies of the aircraft, like wing, fuselage, vertical tail, horizontals, they all are received here, the final assembly process starts. That process encompasses various assembly steps where we join together all these major assemblies, plus all the electrical cables, the HF cables, the data cables, electrical, avionics, hydraulic, all other aircraft systems, they get assembled, and a comprehensive testing is done so that the end product, like the JF-17 Thunder, gets delivered.
Yeah, gets delivered and comes to the final process.
Yeah,
So we'd like to take a walk with you upstairs,
yeah.
and let's see what is happening. Please, if you'd like to lead the way. Right, now let's talk about more when we talk about the final assembly line. So my first question would be, what's the duration once the structure is received at the final assembly line? How long does it take to get this plane up and ready from your end?
The whole final assembly process on average takes 60 to 75 days.
So it's a about more than 2 months
Yeah.
process when we talk about that. So whatever is happening here, if you can just explain, we know that this is the fuselage, when we talk about the cockpit, and then there's a lot of work going on.
Yeah. As you can see here, there is a team that is specialized into different categories.
Okay.
All of them are taking care of their respective areas. We have assembly orders in which we put together the systems so that they can be tested and efficiently installed on the aircraft.
Right.
If we start from here, from the cockpit, you can see this gentleman. He is looking after all the electrical cables and the components that are being installed in the cockpit. Once this area is finished, we move to the next. This is the middle fuselage. Herein the respective components are installed and the testing is being carried out. The electrical interfaces are being tested and some of the components are being installed.
So basically what you get is a structure where every component from here onwards, electrical engineering wise, everything is done by you.
Yeah.
Right. So all of this that we see right now in the middle fuselage, what does it comprise of right now?
It comprises of various electronics components, various electrical components as well. Some of the pipes that are a fuel tank in yellow color. You can also see there.
So yellow, all the pipes in yellow are for the fuel tanks.
Are for the fuel tanks, and these are all the cables. And some of them include the data cables and the HF cables, and the others are the power cables that are going to various aircraft components.
Right, so what's the next step? Once we see that all of this work is done, including electrical engineering, all the components, where does the plane from here onwards go?
Once all of this is finished, the aircraft comes in the shape of flyworthy product. It then rolls out from here to FTS, that is known as flight test station, where it undergoes various taxi tests and the flight tests for final delivery to the Air Force.
So basically from the final assembly line, it's flight testing and then obviously induction as we know. Let's just head up there and show you what happens once the plane is ready and how testing takes place. Right, when we talked about all the components, be it electrical engineering or any other thing, as Squadron Leader Aslan was telling us, now we're at a point where you can obviously see behind me that the plane is going some final testing as well. So Aslan, another very important part that we see, please define to us, what is this process?
This is where the aircraft is undergoing flight controls testing. In this test, all the flight control surfaces of the aircraft are tested. All the flaps, ailerons, elevators, they all get tested over a testing procedure that spans over more than 14 to 15 days. So all these surfaces are tested comprehensively through different test procedures so that the aircraft gets in a shape where its flight controls are flyworthy.
It's flyworthy. So this is a very important and technical point to understand, that you can put all the components, as we saw, electrical engineering, you can have them ready, but when it comes to the actual testing, the flaps, wings, the controls, everything will be tested here.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So how important does this part become? Obviously because that's technical, but when we talk about this, this probably needs extensive testing.
Yes, it comprises some of the testing that we need to do to ensure the quality of the aircraft, so that the airworthiness does not get affected, and that is where the punch lies.
So let's say that if once the aircraft is declared fit from here, then it will go to the testing process.
It will go to the flight
testing.
Yes.
So for example, if we see that a component is not working as per requirement, then what's the procedure?
Then we replace that component because it is still under the pre-production process. So we just replace the component and test it again, and then the aircraft continues with its flying protocol.
Right, so it's completely fine there because it's an indigenous product, so that will be an immediate change process.
Yes.
So I think that's another very important part that we see, that when we talk about flight testing, all the components that need to be tested, obviously once a pilot and the bird is in the air, everything is involved, from the avionics, from the flaps, from the controls and everything you want to talk about. Everything is tested here. Once that test is complete, obviously the bird goes to the flight testing we talk about, where it's declared flight worthy as well. So after that, obviously it's declared fit to fly. But this process, when we talk about that, and I'll give you a look as well where the flaps and wings are being tested. So I'll just ask the cameraman if you can show you. There you go, the controls being tested over there. You can see that different avionics and controls are being tested in the tail and in the wing as well. And this is why it becomes so important, this process, because it is a factor that proves that everything is responding as per the requirement of the pilot. Everything is focused on making sure that the bird is responding to all the controls and the commands that the pilot of this bird is giving it. And I think if you talk about various components, this part of the final assembly line is extremely important, because as Arsalan also told us, if there is any component that is not working as per requirement, immediately it can be replaced. That's the part about indigenization that is, I think, the most worthy to mention, that once you have something indigenous, you can replace it at an instant. Right, so we're at a point where you can see that different avionics and controls of this aircraft are being tested. It's very important to mention this here, that from here onwards the aircraft would be deemed flight worthy, because what you see behind me as well, various flaps, avionics as we talked about, you talked about all the controls that are there, they need to check that it's responding as per the requirement of the pilot, because this is a business where you cannot afford any error, or even a second delay would cause harm not just to the aircraft but to the pilot, and could be detrimental in a situation of war. So I think it's very important that we mention here that all avionics, every control, every component is tested, and as Arsalan also told us, that once something is deemed worthy, it is deemed that everything is responding as per requirement. The plane then is put into flight testing, and then from there onwards it goes further. But the part is that having an indigenous product has its own perks, and the perk is that if something is not responding as per your requirement, what you can do is replace it immediately. Right, now we're going to be talking about the bird itself, because we did say it's a pride of Pakistan, the JF-17 Thunder. You can see it right behind me. The aircraft is loaded and it's hot. That means that in case of any scenario where the jets need to scramble, then this is the place to be, because from here onwards this bird would be going into action. So we'll be talking about the bird itself and also the dynamics and what it feels like to be ever ready if you're supposed to scramble, because it's, I think, the most crucial element when you talk about defending your motherland and guarding the air frontiers of your country. So we'll be talking about these dynamics, and I'm very, very honored to be joined by somebody who's going to be explaining this to me, and I'll be knowing about some more stuff as well. We've now been joined by Squadron Leader Atizaz. Assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Walaikum salam, fine, how are you?
I'm very good. Looks like you're ready to go, so that means that we're in an area where we know that the aircraft is hot.
Yes, all the time we are ready to go. So
ready to go, right? So about the JF-17 Thunder basically, and your squadron as well, we do know that we often mention that it's the pride of Pakistan, right? What does it mean, first of all, to know that this is a plane where Pakistanis obviously own it, in a sense that a lot of indigenization has gone into this plane?
yes, basically the main difference is that it is indigenously developed aircraft and our own weapon system. So the capabilities, all the capabilities which we have on this, we can do the modifications and introduce new weapons onto the aircraft. So it is all in our control with no external interference.
So I think that's a crucial part of it when you talk about the modifications of an aircraft. But as a bird itself, the JF-17, a multi-role fighter as we know it, whether it's missions at land, air or sea, it can perform in every scenario. So as a bird, how would you rate this aircraft, because you're the man responsible for this one?
It's an excellent aircraft, as you must have known that it is capable of performing air-to-air rolls, air-to-ground rolls. It has the capabilities, all the missiles, DBR missiles, IR missiles, and for the ground rolls, standoff weapons, all type of weapons it can carry. So it is a true multi-role fighter. And
as far as the preparation is concerned, going into the aircraft, there's a lot of teamwork involved. I understand that a pilot is not alone. How important is the ground crew that is maintaining the aircraft at all times?
It is of utmost importance. As you can see that they are the guys who make this plane ready and make it available for flying. So rest, we have to do the job, but it is very important for the maintenance and the ground personnel to keep it ready and fighter fit.
Now, we're of course celebrating 27th of February, which is Swift Retort Day. And we often use the phrase that our desire for peace cannot be mistaken as our weakness. So maybe the enemy thought that we're weak, but on 27th of February, we showed to the entire world that Pakistan Air Force stands ever ready to defend its air frontiers and safeguard the motherland. As a person representing Pakistan Air Force, as a pilot yourself, what does 27th of February mean to you? What does Swift Retort mean to you?
Basically, if you see, we are a peace-loving nation and we don't want to get into any conflict. But whenever we are touched upon, then we have to respond in that manner. You see, many pilots just go through their careers and they are unable to get any opportunity like this. So all the time we are always ready to give our best when the time comes. So it is every pilot's dream to be there in this kind of situation and do his best.
Do his best as well, and obviously that's the whole point, because you know, these people are the real heroes when we talk about giving everything to this motherland that we know as home, that we know as Pakistan. And as Azaz has mentioned as well, that you know, it's all about going into the line of duty and going with that dedication and passion, that even if Pakistan calls for it, then you'll be ready to even sacrifice your life. But let's talk about the bird, and if you allow us, we'd like the honor of walking towards the bird as well, and you know, knowing about certain things.
Yes.
I was able to hear some of them when they were taking off, and I must say I've known many fighters, but when thunder is there, roar shall be there.
Yes.
So the thunder really roars, doesn't it?
Yes. We started from the left side. This is the entrance towards the cockpit, and as we move on, these are the pressure sensors to get on the nose of the aircraft. Then towards forward is the nose radome, which carries the radar FCR of the aircraft, and moving towards the other side. Now coming towards this side, this is the nose landing gear. On that we have landing light as well as taxi light. Then this is the intake area for the engine. Subsequently moving back, this is the drop tank which carries fuels. Subsequently we have BVR missile.
The weapons that we talk about.
Because
we said the aircraft is hot. So
yes,
so it's
these
hot.
are all indigenously made weapons,
Right.
and we are able to interface it whenever and whatever we like.
In whatever capacity we want.
In whatever capacity we want and whatever we have the necessity depending upon the mission or the operation.
I think that's the biggest part of it, because we're talking about indigenization, that as Azad also mentioned, that these weapons are also indigenously developed. So I think another proud moment for Pakistan that we'll keep on celebrating, and obviously we can make modifications however we like. So how's the bird itself? I mean, once you're in the air, we have to talk about the bird. How does it feel like? As a pilot, you must have gone through other systems as well.
It's an excellent aircraft. I have flown other aircraft before as well. But the main thing which differentiates it from the previous gen aircraft is that the avionics suite which it carries. It is an excellent avionics suite, and interface with the pilot is excellent. So which basically helps the pilot to stay comfortable and execute his task efficiently.
Right, so we know that there's no Gibbs in this one because it's a single seat fighter, but we have now moved on to a dual seat version as well. So how important has that dual seat version been?
It's very important. Basically, the dual seater helps you to groom your habits. Basically, we call the habit pattern of the pilot in the cockpit.
Right, there'll be many things that are associated with the plane that we're telling you, with the JF-17 and everything that is involved. But one thing that I must highlight, and which is, I think, because I say 27 February will always be there in history for our generations to come to celebrate. And it is a huge proud moment to even be standing near this bird, because it is the same bird that was involved on 27th of February in the missions that we had, where we were able to drop bombs at our own will and obviously guide them away from infrastructures, just to show to the enemy how capable we are. So Azad, I think this is a very proud moment for me, but would you like to tell us about this? Because as I've been told, that this is the same bird that was involved in the mission on 27th of February.
Yes, very much. You are very right. This is the SCON, 16 multi-role SCON. It has the honor of dropping the first standoff weapons from this aircraft during the Operation Swift Retort on 27 February. Although we dropped the bombs as per our supervisors' demand, guided away from the target, but just to show the capability that we have, that in case you misbehave, then we're able to drop it onto the targets as well.
And I think the interesting part is that the enemy tried to stage a false flag operation in the darkness of the night. But what we did was in complete daylight and with everybody to see.
Yes, the point is to choose the time of your own will, and
that was the time when the enemy was least ready and was not expecting us to come in the open sunlight at the daytime. So that was the surprise which we achieved that day and achieved our operation.
Well, absolutely. I think there were many surprises, including the tea that was told to be very fantastic afterwards. So I guess a huge proud moment. But I think one very important factor when we're talking about this is the capabilities it has. We've always recognized this. We have always appreciated this. But the fact is that on 27th of February, the whole world knew what Pakistan Air Force is capable of and what the JF-17 is capable of.
Yes, very true. That was the first time when once the world saw this aircraft into the combat. So from that day onward, this aircraft, we can proudly say that it is combat proven.
Combat proven indeed, and a proud moment for this bird as well, for everybody involved with this squadron, for Pakistan Air Force. Finally, I must ask you, because we're in an AD hut, so we know that things are absolutely ever ready here. So what is the routine, if you would like to just highlight this, that I've been told that every time you were ever ready to just take this bird into the air. So how would the routine be that within a matter of minutes, if you scramble, you'll be in the air?
Yes, so as you can see, presently I am all suited up sitting at the ADA hut. So we are 24/7 available on the ADA hut, and the aircraft, as you can see, is ready, hot at this time. So whenever we get a call, we have to be in air by 6 minutes. So from hut to wheels roll and to air ball, we just need 6 minutes, and 6 minutes we're up in the air ready to face the challenges.
Absolutely remarkable. Finally, I must ask you, the nation is watching. They're listening to Squadron Leader Etizaz, and any message you'd like to give to your fellow Pakistanis on 27th of February, Swift Retort Day?
I would just like to say to the nation that sleep well, we are awake.
Sleep well, we are awake, and I think that is everything you need to know. Why we sleep peacefully at night? Because it is guys like Squadron Leader Etizaz and many others of the Pakistan Air Force who make sure that they're guarding our air frontiers. And like I always say, Pakistan Air Force is one of the best air force in the world, and it can never be taken lightly. And like I always say, and we have been saying, that our desire for peace can never be mistaken as a weakness, and we have proven to the world indeed as well. But Mr. Etizaz, thank you so much. It's been an honor, and all the best. And I think I can easily say on behalf of the entire Pakistani nation that the nation salutes you and is proud of you.
Thank you very much, and we are proud to serve you.
Thank you. Right, you saw the planes take off and you saw these beautiful birds land as well. So we've been able to get our hands on a pilot who's just completed his mission and just landed a short while ago, and we need to ask him about his mission, of course, and a lot of other things as well. So of course we'll have a lot to talk about, and joining us is Squadron Leader Ali Idris. Assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Walaikum salam, alhamdulillah, I'm fine.
So you just landed. Thank you first of all for coming straight to us. So just tell us about your mission. How was the sortie you were flying?
Well, it was a routine mission, and alhamdulillah, we have been preparing ourselves for the peacetime as well. So nothing, you can say that it was a routine mission, nothing special about it.
But preparations never stop, even during peacetime. That's why Pakistan Air Force is always ready to defend the frontiers of this country. So the weather is beautiful for flying, isn't it?
Yeah, it is beautiful.
It is. I know that for a fact because I've been very lucky to witness flying today. So what we're doing is we're celebrating 27th of February, which now in the history books of Pakistan is a huge day to celebrate. Swift Retort has given us so much to celebrate, and at the same time has sent a message to the entire world and the enemies of Pakistan that we will always be ready. So as a pilot, as a part of Pakistan Air Force, how do you feel celebrating Swift Retort?
Well, it's a proud moment for us, especially what we have achieved during the Swift Retort, being available and guarding the aerial frontiers of the Pakistan, and alhamdulillah, what we have achieved the aerial kills. So alhamdulillah, it's the fighter pilots are especially so much proud from that moment onwards, especially from this Swift Retort.
And it was this very squadron that took part in those missions as well, so it must be something to brag about, obviously.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes. So JF-17, we call it the pride of Pakistan. It always will be. So do tell us about the bird itself, because you've been on other systems as well. How do you rate JF-17 as a modern fighter, a multi-role fighter, as we compare it to different systems around the world?
Alhamdulillah, it's a multi-role fighter, and its air-to-air capabilities, air-to-ground capabilities beyond limits, and especially its indigenous system. So we have been bringing changes, and we have been doing a lot of work upon it, and we have been alhamdulillah enhancing the capabilities as well as far as the JF-17 is concerned. So alhamdulillah, it's you would say a multi-role fighter which is enhancing its capabilities with time as well.
Definitely. And is there any message you'd like to give to your nation who is watching you and is, of course, very relaxed and very comfortable knowing that Pakistan Air Force is there for their protection?
Well, alhamdulillah, that we are so much, we fighter pilots are so much proud to be safeguarding the aerial frontiers of Pakistan, and we keep doing it, inshallah, till our last breath.
Well, thank you so much, sir. And on behalf of the entire nation, we'd like to thank you and salute you for your services.
Thank you very much.
And obviously, you've heard from Squadron Leader Ali Idris as well that Pakistan Air Force shall always be ready, and these heroes themselves feel very proud to serve the nation. And it's a matter of pride that they'll always be ready whenever the nation calls. They will be there and they will answer to every call of the nation. And the enemy, I think, already knows 27th of February, Swift Retort gave us, of course, a lot to celebrate, but at the same time gave the enemy a message as well that don't take Pakistan lightly, don't take Pakistan Air Force lightly. So I think it is a great moment to celebrate, and we shall be celebrating throughout the day, and obviously more to come your way, so stay tuned. Right, another beautiful bird has just landed, and we've been able to get our hands on the pilots who were involved in flying this bird, and we will be talking to them about history that it is. Of course, we're celebrating Swift Retort 27th of February and also their mission, and because what I have behind me is a dual seat version of the JF-17, and of course PTV World was one of the lucky ones who unveiled it alongside the Pakistan Air Force a year back, more than a year back. You must remember that show. So, you know, it's interesting that we get to talk about this once again and the significance of having a dual seat version as well. So I'm very honored to be joined with the people who were flying this aircraft. We have, first of all, Wing Commander Jawad. Assalamu alaikum, sir. How are you?
Waalaikumsalam. Alhamdulillah, fine.
Good to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. And we also have been joined by somebody who was there when we unveiled this as well. Squadron Leader Ikrash has joined us once again. So, Ikrash, assalamu alaikum. How are you?
So much. I'm fine. How did you?
I'm very well. Great to have you as well. Right, Wing Commander Jawad, first of all, you were on a routine training mission, so do tell us how it was.
It was a beautiful ride today. We were on an air-to-air refueling training mission, and I was training Squadron Leader Ikrash for air-to-air refueling, and alhamdulillah, he did very fine, and we made quite a bit contacts with the tanker and took some fuel in the air and then came back. So inshallah, he would be doing his solo tomorrow on the JF-17.
So full marks from your side to
Yeah.
Ikrash. So Ikrash, it's been a while since we last talked to you, and we did talk about the dual seat version, and as Sir Jawad just told us that very significant mission air-to-air refueling.
Yeah, it is actually a very, very demanding mission out of a fighter pilot. It's one of the very difficult missions that one has to fly once being a fighter pilot. So in the same context, today I was lucky enough, it was like my dual ride with Wing Commander Jawad, and we tried to do some good hookups with the tanker. It was fine, but he's going to debrief me in detail after we get back to our debriefing room. But it's always a good exposure when you're coming to a close vicinity of a big tanker aircraft, and then you're hooking up with the tanker and getting some fuel out of that jet. So it's altogether a different experience.
So that's a very important factor, and obviously I think Pakistan Air Force also should be proud of this fact as well, that we have the capability of air-to-air refueling. So the significance of it, if you could just highlight that for viewers who are not familiar with the dynamics of air warfare.
Absolutely, air-to-air refueling gives a lot of potential to the aircraft in terms of range and endurance and ability to take off with a greater payload and get refueled in the air. So all these advantages come with air-to-air refueling. If you have a tanker up in the air and you can get fuel from it, it enhances your range. You can go deep into the enemy territory and strike targets which are beyond their imagination, where a fighter could come and drop the bombs. Likewise, you can carry more ordnance and take off and get fuel in the air, and you have better payload capacity to engage the targets. And likewise, you have more time in the air to stay and do your missions likewise.
So Ikrash, what would you say is probably the most difficult part of it? Leveling off or matching the airspeed? What can we say is the most difficult part of
You
it?
can't say that it's a single thing that if you master you're going to do it. It's a combination of things actually. So it simply comes with experience. You go up, you just continue hooking up with the tanker, and subsequently one fine moment you are going to get that. You're just going to hack that, and that's going to be your day.
Right. So, Sir Jawad, of course, the dual seat version has made headlines ever since it was first inducted. What is the significance of it? We've heard it from so many people, but because you just mentioned as you were able to train Ikrash as well for an air refueling mission. So, for training purposes, how important is the dual seat version of the JF-17?
I think in terms of training value that it offers, it is way beyond that you can do with a single seater only. So a pilot which has to go through a number of missions and then acquire that training experience, it reduces to more than half in case you have a dual seat version with you. So things that he would come back and learn from the video debriefs, an experienced crew in the rear seat can tell him there and then, and seeing is believing. So if you can see that spot in the air and learn it there and then, that picture gets embedded in your mind and you do it like that throughout your life. So it offers a very good advantage in terms of training value, and given with that, it is exactly similar to the A model single seat version. So the combat capability it provides is absolutely the same as a. I think this jet is comparable with any modern day fighter jet, especially specific to our region. It is comparable to any fourth generation and above aircraft, may it be from the any part of the world. So the advantage that it provides us, as you said, the indigenization and low cost, and our ability to do what we want on this aircraft. So this is something which we take huge pride in, that we can integrate and put any weapon on this aircraft and we have total control over it, whatever we want to do with it. So this is something which only nations around the globe can imagine to have this capability.
Obviously, very few countries, Ikrash, who have been able to achieve this if we talk about indigenization. So how important does it become to Pakistan Air Force to have its own indigenous aircraft, as Sir Jawad mentioned, with so many capabilities that you can imagine that you could do at your own will?
It is indeed miraculous. You know, not a lot of air forces in the world are actually doing this wonder. I would say that having a capability of producing your own aircraft and all the way maturing it to a level as per your own needs and demands, it's something very rare to be seen. It's very few air forces actually around the world are capable of doing that. So again, being an indigenous jet, all the way, like you talked earlier, we're moving on to the Block 3, inshallah. The jets are already rolling, so hopefully it's going to be a great combat potential once the Block 3 also gets into the air. So we are looking forward to these jets. These are actually the lifeline for the Pakistan Air Force.
Definitely it is. Wing Commander Jawad, of course, was celebrating 27th of February, a day which will go down in history for generations to celebrate as a day when we showed to the whole world in broad daylight, not in the darkness of night, that we are capable, and we are capable at our own will, and our desire for peace cannot be mistaken as a weakness. How would you like to define Swift Retort as a pilot, in the life of a pilot, a day celebrating such a historic occasion?
I think it was a day that every fighter pilot dreams of. A time when he wants to show off his skills and show his mettle, how he's been trained, and to prove himself that he has mastered the air combat and he can employ his machine optimally and defeat the enemy in a way that the nation and the Air Force desires. So I think for many of us it was a dream come true to be able to participate on that day.
Definitely. Ikrash, what would you like to add? Because obviously an enemy that stages a false flag operation in the darkness of a night and tries to create a celebration which is devoid of facts and the truth and is based on false propaganda. and of course Pakistan Air Force responds in the daytime, in broad daylight, at its own will, of course guides its bombs to a safer location rather than targeting, which they could. So how does this day go down in history for you?
Well, it's a very famous saying that you do not underestimate your enemy. So that's exactly what the Indians did on that very day. First of all, they underestimated us, and then they took off that false operation. So I think the world, all over the world, knows what the actual implications was and what were the actual results. For us, it was like the time of our lives. Flying in the air, when actually the nation demands you of doing that, this is the only thing I must say, being in this generation, this is one of the very fruitful things that I have been ever faced with being in the Pakistan Air Force.
So Wing Commander Jawad, finally, your message to the nation who's watching, the entire Pakistani nation that is proud of its Air Force, of Pakistan Air Force and its air defenders. What message would you like to give the nation on 27th of February, where we're celebrating Swift Retort?
As an aviator, although we are proud of what history has been made, but at the same time, in gratitude and in humility, we bow our head in front of Almighty Allah. And whenever the occasion arises, I'm sure with the prayer of our people of our nation and blessings of Allah Almighty, PF again is going to rise to the occasion and do wonders, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you so much. And of course, Ikrash, your message to the nation that is, of course, proud of its Air Force and shall always be in gratitude.
I would always just like to give one message to the youth, and it's nothing more, it's just a verse from Allama Iqbal. He says that, बच्चा शाही से कहता था वो काबे साल खुर्द है तेरे शहपर पे आसान रिफ़ते चरखे बरी है शबाब अपने लहू की आग में जलने का नाम सख्त कोशी से है मुश्किल जिंदगानी अंग भी जो मज़ा कबूतर पर झपटने में है ए पिसर वो मज़ा शायद कबूतर के लहू में भी नहीं.
Absolutely, well said, well defined. But Wing Commander Jawad and Squadron Ikrash, thank you so much for your time. And I think on behalf of the nation, we thank you and salute you for being our air defenders and being ever ready to defend this motherland and for making sure that we sleep peacefully at night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Right, we've got so much coming and we'll be talking about so much more. And as you've heard from the air defenders themselves as well, we of course are proud of them. We shall always be. But they always take serving the nation as a sacred duty. And be it peacetime, be it an act where they need to defend the motherland, they shall always be ever ready to sacrifice their lives even for the defense of this great motherland that we know as home. So more coming your way, stay tuned. Right, there you have it. You've witnessed the entire journey. I've actually witnessed a lot more than what I could have told you. But what I'm about to tell you is something phenomenal. What it is that we saw the flying, we saw the assembly process, we saw the final assembly line as well. But all of that sums up to one thing. It's about celebrating 27th of February, celebrating a day which is called Swift Retort, and it was a day when we surprised the enemy. So it's time now for the big surprise that we're talking about, the pride of Pakistan, the JF-17 Thunder. There's been a lot of speculation, a lot of guesses, people have made a lot of sketches, there were so many ideas about the design and everything involved, but I can proudly say that PTV World, Pakistan Television, is the very first platform that tells people, not in Pakistan, but the entire world, and we reveal this with great pride, representing the Pakistan Air Force. This is breaking news right now on PTV World that finally the bird you see behind me is the JF-17 Thunder Block 3. Once again, let me just tell you, the Block 3 version of the JF-17 Thunder. All the speculation, all the hype, every exciting factor that you were waiting for has now been revealed. You saw it first only on PTV World. The entire world can now know that Pakistan Air Force has finally unveiled the Block 3 version of the JF-17 Thunder aircraft, the latest in cutting-edge technology, the latest when we talk about all the indigenization of Pakistan Air Force, an Air Force which is second to none. And this bird right here further proves that fact that we talk about, that this is an Air Force which is second to none. A great day for the entire nation. I think congratulations to all of you who are watching, to every Pakistani in Pakistan and of course around the world as well. Congratulations to the Pakistan Air Force. The JF-17 Block 3 Thunder, the JF-17 Thunder Block 3 has been unveiled. It will now formally be joining the Pakistan Air Force, will be inducted into various squadrons as well. But once again, like I said, a huge moment to be proud of. 27th of February reminds us, once again, will always remind us in history for generations to come, that this was a day when our air defenders, our warriors that defend the air frontiers of our motherland and guard our territorial integrity and sovereignty, proved not just to Pakistanis but the entire world that they shall always be ready for the call of the nation, to answer to that call of the nation, to any adversary, to any enemy, and tell to the entire world that our desire for peace can never be mistaken as our weakness. And whenever the enemy, if they dare, they shall be answered even in broad daylight, and they will of course be tasting the tea, which is very fantastic. But that fact will remain over there. It's been a great journey from me and my entire team, from everybody involved with this exclusive program. I think we'd like to thank the Director General of Public Relations of the Pakistan Air Force, the Media Affairs Department, everybody involved here at the AMF, at Manhas Base, everybody who was involved, and would like to thank each and every one of you. But once again, I think, let me tell all of you that it's breaking news, and for everybody who's watching, that the surprise is out. The JF-17 Thunder Block 3 has now been unveiled. From me and the entire team, it's goodbye for now, but with a wish and a prayer that may our air defenders always answer to the call of the nation, and may we always progress as proud Pakistanis. Pakistan Zindabad, Pakistan Air Force, Paindabad.